Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future homebuyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of homeownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Lo-Fi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. Licensed lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island Licensed Lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
Welcome to Sports Talk with R&J. I'm Steve Risser, along here with Justin D'Onofrio. And last night was a great performance by the Yankees. Max Fried pitched really, really well. You had Fried pitching well. You had Trent Grisham hit another grand slam. You had 2 home runs from Jazz Chisholm. And I'm telling you, they're playing their best baseball right now. They've won 7 in a row. They've won 8 out of 9. This team is starting to get hot. They're starting to get hot at the right time. I know last week we were down on them saying they weren't World Series contenders, but this team is starting to get hot at the right time, and they're starting to change my mind. They're starting to change my mind, especially with the pitching, with the way Fried's pitched the last couple of games, the way Schiltzler has pitched. You know, the offense has been really good. This team's starting to change my mind a little bit with the way they're playing.
Not mine.
9-3. Really? Wow.
Yep. They got 9-3.
9-3, you're saying, in this stretch?
What?
You're going 9-3?
That's what they have to do to change my mind.
9-2.
Change my mind.
Wow.
I'm done buying in. I'm done. I'm done with this team fooling me.
They beat the Astros. Look at them last night. Look at Trent. Look how Trent Grisham's been. 2 grand slams in his last 4 games.
He had. But again, you're probably gonna have to play the Red Sox in the wild card. And the way they play against Boston this year, I have no confidence that they win 1 game in a best of 3 against them. So that's where my mind's at too.
We'll definitely have a better answer to this question in a couple weeks. We'll definitely know where they are in a couple weeks, because these next 2 weeks are a big measuring stick for the Yankees to see where they are going into the postseason. You know, with these 3 games in Houston, then the 3 at home with Detroit, and then the 3 at home with Toronto, and then the 3 against then Boston at the end in the middle of the month. So we'll have a better idea, obviously, after these 12 games. But the way it started last night, you got to have a little bit of confidence in this team, especially with the way Max Fried has pitched recently. He's been pitching really well.
Yeah, that's a good sign. It is. But now, look, they may back their way into going a run because the rest of the American League right now is not playing well. Like, the Astros are not playing well. I think the Mariners, after last night, have lost 13 of the last 19 games. Detroit's not playing well. They're trying to avoid a sweep against the Mets today. I think they're tied 1-1 right now. Boston's playing well right now. You know, but, like, everybody else in the American League is not playing well. So, yeah, maybe he could do a run, but it's just because nobody else in the American League is. And even Toronto's starting to kind of struggle now a little bit too. So I'm like, I guess they could, but I'm still just not buying in because they played Boston this year, and they look like a Little League team out there. So I can't buy in until they don't look like a Little League team anymore. You know, and Toronto, Boston will show me that.
I get it. They're 8-19 against the Astros, the Blue Jays, the Tigers, and the Red Sox. It's awful. But they have a chance to change that in the first month of September. They have a chance to change that in the first month of September and go into the month, you know, and then if they have a chance to change that and look like they're a contender going into the playoffs, and possibly especially if they do well this weekend and next weekend, they have a very good chance to win this division. Who would have thought? Who would have thought we'd be saying that with the way Toronto's been playing?
Which is crazy. Yeah, they'd have a shot. You're gonna have to beat Boston because they're playing pretty well now too, and you know, get a crack at them again coming up in a couple of weeks here. But yeah, the way Toronto's playing, it is crazy to think because 2 weeks ago I thought 2-3 weeks. 3 years after the Marlins, I didn't think this team was making the playoffs, but they were playing well. It's just the rest of the American League is just they're not playing great. I know the Texans is only 2.5 back now on my credit, I believe. So I believe they've won. They're starting to play better too, but the rest of the American League is just not playing well. So yeah, I could see the Yankees backing their way in the winning a couple rounds, but I just need to see it first. I'm still just they've just done too much damage to me this year for me to just start sitting there and believing again.
Yeah, to me, if they can go 7-5 and win like 3 of these 4 series, I'm in. I'm definitely buying in because that probably means at that point in the middle of September, they'd be right there with the Blue Jays and Red Sox for the division lead. And they're close now. They're still doing 2.5 games behind the Blue Jays. So if they go 7-5 in this stretch, and there's a very good chance that they do, they're going to be right there. I'm buying in. I am buying into this club. I know you want them to go 9-3, but if they're 7-5, they're probably going to be right there. And it will show you that they're playing well at the right time, just like they were last year when they got to the World Series.
Yeah, they were. Again, they played the Guardians, and I don't want to take anything away, but it was the Guardians and Royals.
I get it, but the Guardians and Royals were good teams. They weren't great teams. I get it. The National League teams were better, but the Guardians and Royals were good teams last year.
They were. The minute they played the Dodgers, everything fell apart for them. Again, if they win game 1, who knows? Maybe they somehow win that series. It very well could have happened, but you just go back to game 5. It's just the Royals and Guardians didn't scout them very well because the Dodgers did exactly what you have to do. Just put the ball in play, take the extra base, do the little things because they don't do it themselves. So that's just where I'm at. The Yankees just don't play clean, fundamental baseball when they, we've seen it against Boston this year. We've seen it against Toronto. Like we've seen in those games where to me personally, and I can't trust an Aaron Boone managed team. I just can't. I think he outsmarts himself, and Cora owns him in every big situation in a Yankee Red Sox series this year or in game. It just seems Cora makes the right move, and Aaron Boone tries to counter, and he just fails miserably. So again, it's also because 3 of my 4 pro teams, like the Rangers, we're Ranger fans every year. Feels like this is the Cup. They never do.
Yeah.
The years have had expectations. They fail. I think it's part of me of that. And I'm just used to my teams kind of failing me, and I'm just not going to get my hopes up.
Yeah, I could see it. Yeah. I mean, but I think they're playing well, and they continue. They've won 5. Funny, they've won 5 in a row in Houston because they swept them last year to start the season. Yeah. So they have won 5 in a row in Houston. That used to be a house of horrors for the Yankees, Houston. So they've won 5 in a row there, and they continue their series tonight against the Astros. You got Warren against Alexander on Wednesday, and then you got tomorrow night Rodon against Javier. I think they take 2 out of 3 here. I do think they take 2 out of 3 from this Astros team. I think they do. With the way they're playing right now, I think they do.
Yeah, I think they can win 1 or 2. I know they just faced Jason Alexander a couple weeks ago and went 6 innings, gave up 1 hit. Not great, but he's been pitching better. And Warren's been, he's been better too. Outside of that one start against Boston where he got, lit up. Other than that, he's been pitched well. So, yeah, I think him or Rodon could get it done. I don't love Rodon in big spots, but maybe, if he does enough. I know Javier, it's like his 5th start of the year, but he's pitched pretty well. So, yeah, I expect the Yankees to take 1 of 2 here, and get out of Houston with another series win.
Now we got the big series in Toronto. For the Yankees. They 3 with the Blue Jays this weekend in the Bronx. This is the first time the Blue Jays are back in the Bronx for the first time since the last week of April. So it's been a while since the Blue Jays have been in the Bronx. They dominated the Yankees in Toronto this year. They won 6 out of the 7 games there, including a 4-game sweep over July 4th weekend, over the week before July 4th. They won 4 straight against them. So the Blue Jays have had their way with the Yankees this year. But I do think with the pitching, we got Slitzler pitching in what's his name?
Slittler.
Slittler pitching in game 1, and then you got Fried pitching. I think the Yankees got the pitching advantage here. I know I said that last week against the last couple weeks ago. A couple weeks ago against the no, I don't think I said. I might. Yeah, I think I said that a couple weeks ago against the Red Sox, and they lost 3 out of 4. So I don't know if if the people should listen to me here, but I think with the pitching advantage, and they got it, and they're at home. They won 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays earlier in the season at home. I do think they win this series. I do think they take 2 out of 3, and I think by Sunday they're at least a game and a half out of first place.
For me, I'm going to say Toronto takes 2 out of 3 this weekend.
You've been consistent, not buying into this Yankee team against good teams.
No, I'm not, because Toronto, they've done the little stuff. They've been good on the base pass. They put the ball in play. They do all the stuff I've been asking the Yankees to do for 5 years that they don't do. And I think Toronto does it well. And I like Cam Slitler. I think you got to make. I know it's probably Rendon would be the game 2 starter. I would make Slitler the game 2 starter right now. The way he's been pitching.
Really? You go Slitler. Oh, you go him over Rendon. I'd still go Rendon. I go him in game 3. I go him in game 3.
I just don't trust Rendon. I just don't trust him. And I really think I love Slitler's stuff. I go game 2. I really like Slitler. Maybe he could get the job done. But I just think Toronto's a bad matchup. They steal bases. They got guys that they grind out at bats. And then I think one of those 2 games, I think a couple of those games they get deep in the Yankees bullpen. And I think one of the starters can't go deep enough, and Toronto takes advantage. So I'm gonna take Toronto to take 2 out of 3 this weekend in New York.
Oh wow. So wow. So I just think, and I like Rendon. I think Rendon's good. I mean, he pitched that game against the Red Sox a couple weeks ago when the Yankees lost 3 straight, and they won that game. So I definitely trust Rendon. I definitely try. I would go Rendon with the game 2 starter. I would definitely. Again, he's got a lot more experience than. He's a lot more experience, so I would go with him in game and Schlittler. So I would go with him in game 2, and then obviously Fried's game 1, and Max Fried has pitched really well. But I think this Yankee team is obviously going to make the playoffs. It's pretty much where they're going to be positioned. It's going to come down to, are they going to be the number 2 or 3 seed? Are they going to be the 4 seed or the 5 seed? What they don't want to end up being is the 5 seed, because they'll probably have to go to Fenway or Toronto in that wild card round, and they haven't played well there at all. So they don't want to wind up being the 4 or 5 seed. Now it'd be nice if they could win the division and be the 3 seed and play Seattle, because Seattle hasn't played. They played Seattle well this year. They beat Seattle 5 out of 6. That's the one team in the American League they played well against this year is Seattle. They've won 5 out of 6 against them. So ideally, they'd want to be either the 2 or the 3 seed to either have a bye or play Seattle in the first round. What they don't want to do is get the 4 or 5 seed. Now, obviously, preferably the 4 seed, because they'll be at home in the wild card round, but they do not want to get the 5 seed. They absolutely want to avoid that. But if they don't win games in the stretch, they will be getting the 5 seed.
Yeah, they absolutely will. So that's why, the next 11 games are crucial for them to win these games to avoid that. Because I feel pretty good if they could line up, if they could somehow win the division and get Seattle. I feel pretty good. But if they get the 4 seed or 4 or 5 and they got to play Toronto, Boston, I don't feel good at all about their chances, especially going on the road. Because I know that Toronto team doesn't have a ton of postseasons. I know they made it. It's been a couple years since they've been in it. I don't think that Toronto team is afraid of the bright lights in New York. I don't think they will be.
Really? I don't know. I think. Hey, listen, if I had to pick a team to play in that wild card round, it's definitely Toronto instead of Boston, because Boston, is not afraid of the Yankees. Toronto, I know they had success against them in July, but this is October. This is October now. And we've seen Toronto, when they've been in the playoffs, really, really struggle in October.
But that's why they brought in a guy like George Springer, who is just clutch. Been a clutch hitter. Yeah, I don't think Bo or Vladdy are scared of the moment. Yeah, I don't.
Since they've had Springer, they haven't been that good in October too. They got knocked out, but they got knocked out twice. They got knocked out by the Mariners in 2022 and got knocked out by the Twins in 2023. So even since they've had Springer, they haven't been that good in October either. If you're asking what team I'd rather play, it's definitely the Blue Jays than the Red Sox.
Oh, it is too for me. I don't want to face Boston but just because. But I still just think Toronto. I don't think Toronto will be. I'm like, Springer's having a renaissance year for him. I thought he was in a down. He is, and I think Vladdy, Bo. I don't think those guys would necessarily be free. And with their veteran pitching staff, they have too. I know Barrios got lit up last night, but they have Bassett, they have Gosman. I don't think Scherzer would be one of those guys that go in the wild card round, but maybe he comes in relief or something. So I don't think they have a very veteran leader kind of rotation. And then actually Shane Bieber too. I forgot.
Yeah, Bieber does a good
Bieber.
pickup.
Yeah, he's been good so far his first few starts. So like I don't think so. I think I don't want to face either of those two teams. I'd probably rather face Toronto than Boston, but I'm still would not love it. That's why I would love to see him win the division, but we got to win this weekend.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this weekend's a huge weekend for the Yankees against the Blue Jays. Big weekend for the Yankees against Toronto. It's really really important for them to win those games against the Blue Jays. It's really important. So huge weekend for them. But we'll move on to a team that won last night too, and that's the Red Sox. And they are in third place. The Yankees are still percentage points ahead of them, but they have beaten the Yankees 8 out of 10 times this year. And if you look at the Sox schedule, down the stretch, I mean, if you look at it, Arizona, it's pretty easy until those last 6 games. Those last 6 games are going to be that 3-game series in Toronto. It's going to be a big 3-game series between the Blue Jays and Red Sox. That's going to be a big 3-game series between the two teams. But if you look at it, outside of the Yankees, their next, 12 of their next 15 games, Arizona, they're okay. The A's, they're not good. You got the A's again, and then you got the Rays. You can handle those 3 games are doable. And then if you look at Toronto's schedule, you got at the Yankees, the Astros, you do have Baltimore, at Tampa, at Kansas City. I feel like the Red Sox have a more favorable schedule than Toronto. There's a good chance they could be ahead of them by the time they play. By the time they play that last series, that last series in September.
Yeah, they could. They could. Their schedule's not overly difficult. I know Arizona's been a little feisty since they've made those trades. They've been decent. I know the A's have actually played better in the second half of the year. I know they're still 12 under. They've played a little bit better. So, but yeah, the way they're taking care of business, their schedule's not great. But yeah, that Toronto one's going to be huge for them because they're still going to be right in the thick of things. And that 3 against Detroit, they're going to be they're 9 up. So like those 3, like Detroit's going to be kind of locked up and have a division already set. So, but yeah, Toronto, that's going to be a big one for him. So yeah, but other than that, the schedule isn't overly difficult for him. And I actually just seen this, with Red Sox news. Cora says with that oblique that Roman left the game last night, he's going to be out for at least 4 to 6 weeks. So that could be
that's definitely a blow because he's definitely been huge. He's been big for them, hitting over 300. He's been big for them. That could be a blow. That really could be a blow for a team that platoons a lot. Getting rid of Devers, as I've said, is turned into addition by subtraction. Seeing what happened with Devers last night, that was disgraceful. That fight, starting a fight with the Rockies, that was disgraceful last night. But listen, and I thought the Red Sox would fall off after Devers, but they've done anything but that. They've been better without Rafael Devers. So, I think that's a good point there. That Anthony injury could definitely be key for them because he was hitting over 300 in his last couple months. He's been hitting over 300 for them.
Yeah, he's been a fire. The leadoff spot, he's been unbelievable. So yeah, it could be a big loss for him. They'll still make the playoffs and all that, but yeah, no Meyer, no Anthony for the rest of the year. So yeah, it'll be interesting what they do now if they call. So they got the options of course with the bench. So but yeah, it's a tough loss for a guy that's been playing really good baseball of late.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Did it just come in now, the Roman Anthony news?
Yeah. Cora just spoke, I guess, to somebody on the Mass Live.
Oh,
Chris Cotillo.
Wow. Now it's not like they're losing like Trevor Story out of that lineup. It's not like they're losing him, but this is one of their because they platoon so much. It's one of their few everyday guys. So it's definitely going to be a loss for them, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It will be because he's been mostly the leadoff hitter of late, and he's been really good at that spot. And Bregman's been good since coming off the IL came about 2 months now, and Trevor Story, who I thought was done in May, he's had an unbelievable year. He's played really well of late. So yeah, they still got a really good lineup. They still got some depth there, and yeah, they platoon a lot. So it'll be kind of interesting to see. Who kind of because and I think they're hoping Abreu will be back early next week. So you maybe get him back in the mix too, because he's played pretty well too this year. So yeah, but yeah, that's a big one for for Roman. I know they were hoping it was just tightness, but yeah, it sounds like he's got according to say what grade strain it is, but it is an oblique strain.
Yeah. That's a loss there. That definitely is a loss for the Red Sox going forward. So we'll see what happens there. Now, luckily for them, as we said, they have a very favorable schedule until they have to play the Blue Jays with 3 against Arizona, 3 against the A's. They do have that huge series next weekend against the Yankees at Fenway, which they played well against. They've won it. They swept them at Fenway earlier in June. They swept them at Fenway in June, so that's a big series. But then they got the A's at home, and then they got the Rays. So before that, they do have a pretty 12 of the next 15 are very winnable for them. Even 13 of their next 16 because they got the Guardians tonight at home. So they're winnable for them. But yeah, that definitely could be that's definitely going to be an injury there. That's definitely going to be a loss for the Red Sox, losing Roman Anthony for a couple of weeks. But coming up next, we're gonna shift over to college football. But before we make that shift over to week 2 of the college football season, as we preview the big matchup in Norman this week, we're going to hear from our friends. Before we preview that matchup, we're going to hear from our friends at JPEG Financial and Shamrock Home Inspections.
Do you have a 401k and some savings for future retirement, but don't even know if it's enough to live off of? How much is enough? How often are you thinking about it? The team at JPEX Financial Group can help set your mind at ease. We specialize in creating strategies in the planning and managing of your financial, educational, and investment needs. We help clients pursue their investment goals with sound financial strategies. You deserve a personal, tailored plan. Lasting, meaningful, and open relationships are the foundation of our practice. You've worked hard for your money and should feel confident in your investment choices as you make decisions for your financial future. Your goals are our goals. We are dedicated to your needs and hopes for your future. Visit our website and give us a call at 860-430-5397. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. JPEX Financial Group, LLC is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services. JPEX Financial Group is located at 78 Eastern Boulevard, Glastonbury, Connecticut. There's no bigger investment than home ownership. And to make sure the house is up to your standards, you need a professional to look it over. Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections is a licensed home inspector and a member of the Connecticut Association of Home Inspectors. Brian was a contractor for over 15 years, so he knows how homes should be constructed and how mechanicals should work.
What makes me a good home inspector was the 20 years that I was a home improvement person, doing all the different repairs that I have done and what other people have done wrong that I had to go out and fix. So I have a pretty quick eye on seeing what's right and what's wrong. Before you move, call Shamrock Home Inspections.
Before you make the biggest investment of your life, call Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections at 860-268-2566 or visit shamrockhomeinspectionct.com.
All right, we go week 2 of the college football season. Now, this is not a good slate of games. I think they're making up from last week. Be having a great slate of games to this week. Is this the worst slate of games of the year, you think?
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah, for this slate of games is not good. This slate of games is not good for week 2. But we'll start with the biggest game, and that is between Michigan and Oklahoma. And I think this is going to be a really good game. This is an interesting game between these two teams. Michigan, right? You got Bryce Underwood. You got Johnny Mateer. Right? Is he the Heisman favorite right now? Johnny Mateer? It's got to be one of them.
He might, because odds aren't available in Connecticut. He might be now. Well, he might be now that Arch Manning after that.
Oh, what a disaster by Arch Manning. Yeah. What a disaster that was by Arch Manning. That was not a good performance. Even though he faced the defending national champs, that was still a disastrous performance by Arch Manning last week.
Matt Patricia, that was a vintage Patriot. No,
yeah, that's like the first good game Matt Patricia has called in years. Yeah. The first good game Patricia has called in years. But this game between Michigan and Oklahoma, I think it's going to be close, going to be competitive. But I'm going to go with the better quarterback here. I think it's going to be a little bit tough for Bryce Underwood, especially early on. We all know Norman. It's a really good atmosphere. I think it's going to be tough for him early on. So I think Bryce Underwood is going to struggle here. And I think Mateer is going to outplay him. I think it's going to be a competitive game. Now, Michigan's linebacker is going to miss the first half. I think that's going to be tough because I think they're going to go off to a rough start. But I think Michigan tries to come back. But at the end, I'm going to go with the better quarterback here. I'm going to go with Oklahoma here. I'm going to go with Oklahoma to beat Michigan 27-20. But Justin, can Michigan had a big win last year against Ohio State? Can they keep up that momentum and win a huge game, win a big game on the road in Oklahoma?
I'm going with the Wolverines here.
Ooh.
20-20.
Ooh,
Yeah.
wow.
I was not impressed last week with Oklahoma.
Really?
Yeah. Illinois State. I thought Oklahoma's defense played pretty well. We get to Tommy Rittenhouse, one of the better FCS quarterbacks. Illinois State's defense is nothing to be. Illinois State's defense is not very good. And Oklahoma, their offensive line struggled. They really couldn't get much of a running game going against Illinois State. Now you're facing Michigan. I'm very worried. You got two true freshmen starting on your offensive line. I do think it's a little bit better than last year, but I don't think it's much better. I like Mateer. He's somebody that can make plays, kind of. He's got a big arm, but I was actually impressed with Bryce Underwood. They still don't look like they have the wide receivers on the outside to really be a big difference maker, but I'm just kind of. I think I'm not totally out of Oklahoma, but I just didn't like what I saw last week. I think Michigan wins this game in the trenches. And I just think Oklahoma's offensive line is going to be the thing that costs them yet again this year. And, the SEC needs this one because it was a pretty bad week. I know LSU won, but the way Alabama looked, the way Texas looked, they need one of these marquee non-con wins because I don't want to hear that dumb. I don't want to hear Feinbaum complaining 9-3 again that none of their playoff teams get in. Bet 9-3. They need some marquee non-con wins.
Yeah, you made a good point about the SEC there. You made a good point. Yeah, it was a rough Alabama. The board, they're talking about firing.
Let's forget about what I said about them.
We'll forget about that. Alabama, they did not look good at all. And then, Texas with Arch Manning. Yeah, the SEC definitely had a rough. If it wasn't for LSU, it would have been a terrible week. But they had a rough week. And you're not. Yeah, you definitely is a bit. Yeah, this is for the SEC. They need this one because if say Michigan wins this game, I think you can argue the Big Ten is better than the SEC because you got Michigan, you got Penn State and Ohio State, the top two teams in the country. You got Oregon, a top 10 team, and then Michigan would probably get to the top 10 if they get close to the top 10 if they win this game on the road.
Yeah. I think the top of the Big Ten better. My problem with the Big Ten is when you just get down. I think the SEC's bottom's a little bit better than Big Ten bottom because Mississippi State is probably the worst SEC team. But I was actually kind of impressed with them on Saturday. I thought they looked I shouldn't say a lot better, but I think they look better. So, and I don't think Purdue's gonna be very good. Northwestern looks awful again. So, that's kind of where I'm at. But I think the top of the Big Ten is definitely better than the top of the SEC right now.
Yeah, we'll see. And speaking of Mississippi State, they host Arizona State on Saturday night in Starkville. And I think Mississippi State stays in it early, but obviously you got to take the better quarterback in Sam Leavitt here. You got to take him here to win. That's why you got to take the Sun Devils to win this game. I got the Sun Devils winning by 2 scores. I got the Sun Devils 31-17. But Justin, can Mississippi State pull off the upset in Starkville and start 2-0?
Yeah, I got Mississippi State in this one, 35-31.
Wow. What's your score?
35-31.
Wow. So you're the worst team in the SEC, beating the team that won the Big 12 last year.
Yeah, I was not impressed last week with Arizona State. Jordan Tyson, they had to target him 17 times against North Arizona, which is a top 25 FCS team. Very good offense, not a very good defense this year. For the Lumberjacks, I think I really like Sawyer Robertson, the Mississippi State quarterback. I think they move the ball. I think they put up some big yardage. Arizona State's running game looked pretty good. But the concerning thing was to me, you really needed Jordan Tyson 12 catches to bail you. I know they won by 20. And they were 1 for 10 on third down. Both teams had a bunch of, Mississippi State and Arizona State had a bunch of penalties. I'm going to take Mississippi State at home there. With Arizona State was practicing with the Cowbells, but they had 6 of them. I'm like, that's not really going to do much for getting ready for that game. I think Mississippi State gets this one. Jeff Levy, I think he's going to do a good job down there. I was impressed the way they played last week. They look better. They look more competent. I'm going to take the Bulldogs at home.
Wow. You're going the worst team in the SEC to beat. I can't pick the worst team in a conference to be arguably the best team in a conference. And I know the SEC is much better than the Big 12, but I can't pick the worst team in one conference to beat the best team in another conference. Argue, but not saying the best. Argue the team that won the conference last year and almost got to the semifinals. But a big reason for that is a guy who's on the Giants now in Cam Scatterboo. But still, I just can't pick that. But you like Mississippi State here. That's a little surprising.
Yeah. I just wasn't impressed with Arizona State last week. I thought the running game was decent. And I think Arizona State was mostly just kind of playing a shell defense. Like I don't think they showed them much, and North Arizona had some success offensively. But there was just something about the Arizona State game I just did not think was impressive. And I kind of think Mississippi State on the road. Everybody kind of thought Southern Miss was going to get them, down there in Hattiesburg last week. But I think they're the better team. And I did make a mistake. I swear Robertson's now the Baylor quarterback. He was at Mississippi State's Blake Shapen, who was at Baylor. I mixed that up, but so Blake Shapen's the Mississippi State quarterback, and I do think he plays pretty well in this one. I do think he makes more plays than Sam Levin in this game. And yeah, I'll take. I don't like the SEC, but I'll take me the worst team to win a big game here and at home.
Wow, you are going with Mississippi State. Now we will move on to a sneaky good game here in Durham as Illinois takes on Duke. This is another team in the Big Ten. I didn't talk about where I met the SEC. They're in the Big Ten. This is a top 10 team with one of their linebackers. It's got a good linebacker and Altmaier back, and I think that makes a difference for Illinois. I think this is close and competitive, but I'm going to take a team with a better quarterback here with Luke Altmaier, and I got the Fighting Illini winning a good game, winning a big game at home against Duke. I got the Fighting Illini 24-20. But Justin, can Duke get to 2-0 and upset Illinois?
Yeah, of course. I can't pick Duke. I got them 27-21. I think Illinois super experienced team. I think what they do in this game is they go back to what Brett Bielema's team do best. They just ground and pound. I think they hold the ball for 40 minutes. I think they wear down Duke's defensive line. They got out to a very slow start last week against Elon. They did kind of take control there late, but I thought kind of some garbage they tacked it on late there against them. And I think Illinois in this one, what they got to do is make Mensa make Duke and Darren Mensa, it was a good pickup for him, kind of one-dimensional. Mensa might, could get him kind of going with the running game, but they got to keep him in the pocket. I think they do. I just think this is a Brett Bielema kind of special, just round and pound. We're just going to wear you down. We're going to out-physical you. I think that's what they do down in Durham Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen as well. Now, another pretty good game at noon. Probably two of the top 3 games of the week, maybe top 4 games of the week are at noon, as Iowa takes on Iowa State. It's always a competitive game with these two teams. Sometimes we're low scoring, but it's always a competitive game. You got number 15 Iowa State taking on Iowa. And I think this is again, a low-scoring game, and I'm going to go with the team with the better quarterback. And Rocco Bet is the better quarterback here. I'm going to go with Iowa State 24-17 over Kirk Ferentz's squad. I think the quarterback play will be the difference in this game, and I think that's what's going to be the difference. And Justin, can Kirk Ferentz's squad go to Ames and pull the upset?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Hawkeyes 24-20.
Wow. Well, you got a lot of upsets this week.
Yeah, another one here. I know Iowa State's look good. I really have liked the way Rocco Beckett's played so far. He's 19 for 20 last week and, blew out South Dakota, which they never blow out FCS teams like that. Usually Campbell uses it as a preseason type game. But the one we're at for Iowa State is they've given up a lot of chunk plays, in Kansas State. Even South Dakota had a couple. I know Mark Gurkowski, the South Dakota State transfer, I thought this is the first time Iowa's had a decent quarterback. I wasn't impressed with them last week, but I think they held a lot back. But I think Iowa last year, where they had to lean a lot on Caleb Johnson, I think this year they finally have the depth back at the running back spot. I think they're able to run the football a little bit better than Iowa State in this one. I think they get a couple big runs in this one. And I do think it's enough here that they knock off the Cyclones 24-20.
Funny how you talk about Iowa's quarterback, because Kirk Herbstreit the other day on the Pat McAfee show said the same thing, that Iowa now has a play. That's why he thinks they're a sleeper team in the Big Ten, because he says that Iowa he thinks this is the best quarterback Iowa has had since Brad Banks. You don't know if you remember him back in the early 2000s, but
I don't remember him. But
yeah, but he says he really likes this quarterback. He says that Iowa's not going to be surviving this year. He says they could make plays in the passing game this year. They could maybe pull some upsets this year.
Yeah, they could. Mark Gurkowski, that dude's a winner. He won won a ton of football games up at South Dakota State. I thought maybe he would go with his OC to Northwestern, but he didn't. Guy too that could run the football. Pretty accurate passer. Won the Walter Payton. I think he won it twice, which is like equivalent to the Heisman Trophy. So I've watched him a ton. He's a guy too that does not make a ton of mistakes either. So I think they held a lot back. I know he's only 8 for 15, but yeah, this is definitely in my lifetime. This is the best quarterback that I was had. So I do think he's gonna get better. I'm gonna go with they just held a lot back last week, and again, do they have the guys on the outside to really help him? Probably not, but I do think he is good enough to give him a competent offensive passing game, which for Iowa's never. It's not it's been non-existent for most years under Kirk Ferentz.
I could see, yeah, I could see an upset, but I'm going to go with the team with the more proven quarterback in Iowa State, 24-17. Now we got the Battle of Texas as Baylor takes on SMU, and I'm going to go with an upset here. I'm going to go with Baylor. I think they're the more battle tested team. I think they lost to Auburn last week, but they're more battle tested team. SMU didn't play anyone. I think SMU is a little bit overrated at number 17. I saw them playing the college football playoff last year, and they did not look good at all there. I'm going with Baylor here. I'm going with Baylor in the upset 23-20. But Justin, can SMU continue the momentum from last year and drop Baylor to 0-2?
Yeah, I'm with the. I'm with you here with Baylor Bears, 38-34.
Wow, you're liking these upsets this week. You got like 4 or 5 upsets.
Yeah, this might cost me, record wise here, but I'm with you. Like, yeah, Baylor, Jackson all ran all over them. Now they didn't really put a spy on, but I think they were a little afraid of Auburn's wide receivers beating them, and I think they wanted, they were okay with Jackson Arnold beating him with his legs. Kevin Jennings is a cable runner as well. He doesn't do it a ton, but I can't imagine Baylor's going to let him kind of scramble like they let Jackson Arnold do last week. And yeah, like SMU blew out East Texas A&M. That's a bottom 15 FCS program. I wasn't that impressed with their outcome. Like I just the few plays I kind of saw, I wasn't over impressed. I think Sawyer Robertson, I think he's a very underrated quarterback. I think he lights up this SMU defense. And a Baylor team too that is probably, again, they could still win the Big 12. Like, if they go 0-2, they still haven't lost Big 12 game. They're not out of it, but you don't want to start 0-2. I think you get a desperate kind of team not wanting to go 0-2 here. I'm gonna take Baylor on the road.
Yeah, it's my one upset this week. Yeah, I think Baylor's going to be desperate, and I think SMU's a little bit overrated at number 17. So that is my upset of the week. Now we will head to a game in Eugene as Oklahoma State takes on Oregon, and Oregon's like a 29-point favorite. I do think Oklahoma State covers because at least they're a Power 4 team, but I think Oregon wins this one big. I think Dante Moore has a big game, and I think their defense dominates. I got Oregon in this one, 38-14 over Oklahoma State. But Justin, is there any way that Mike Gundy could pull off a major upset in Eugene?
I don't think so. I got the Ducks 41-13. Zane Flores, the Oklahoma State quarterback, to be making his first start of his career. Not the greatest spot to be going into the zoo. Playing up in Hudson. Yeah, that's a tough spot. And Gundy talked about it yesterday, how they're playing a totally different sport than Oregon right now. Their NIL is not in great shape, and not a lot of expectations. Their offense is not going to be very good. Their defense is a strength, but I still don't love this defense. And they struggled to get a running game against Tennessee Martin last week. The Cowboys did. I think Dante Moore plays pretty well. And watch out for the freshman wide receiver for the Ducks, DeCarry Moore. I think he's the best freshman wide receiver in the country. I think he's got a pretty good day. I really like this kid. Malachi Hughes, too. He didn't play he only had one carry last week against Montana State. I expect to see him more this week, and Noah Whittingham in the backfield as well. I like the duo that Oregon's got in the backfield. I think the Ducks blow them out here, and I think it'll be a long day for Mike Gundy, who I wouldn't be shy he calls it quits at the end of this year. I'm surprised he's still there. He's not a big fan of the new college sports, this era.
So Gundy this is why they're bad. He just hasn't evolved. Gundy just hasn't evolved.
He's tried since Boone Pickens died. They just no money comes in, so like they're just far behind on the NIL stuff. So I think he tries. I just don't think he's got the resources to money wise to bring guys in that. So
Oklahoma State's been a team that's been has fallen off since NIL pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, they don't have that big donor that could help them out. So yeah.
Are they ever going to fire Gundy, or is it just he'll just leave on his own because he's been there for so long?
I think you'll probably see a mutual parting the ways. Like, they fire him, but they'll give him the respect to say, yeah, we just parted. Like the Bill, like the
Well,
Bill. Yeah,
that was a firing, but yeah, kind of
yes,
something like
but
that. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's gonna kind of go down like that. That's what
Okay.
I
Okay.
expect.
All right. All right. So that's probably going to happen in Oklahoma State. So we'll move on to an SEC game. We got Ole Miss taking on Kentucky, and I think even without Jackson, even losing Jackson Dart, I still think Ole Miss wins this game because I don't think there's high expectation for Kentucky this year. I think Ole Miss wins this game. I got them 27-17. I think Kentucky stays in it because it's an SEC game, but I think at the end of the day, I got Ole Miss winning this one 27-17. But Justin, without Jackson Dart, could Lane Kiffin get upset in his SEC opener?
Oh, he better not, because I got him 27-13. This would be a bad one if he loses back-to-back years to Kentucky. Kentucky's
Oh yeah,
defense, I think, we keep him in this football
Oh,
game.
I know. Yeah, I remember. I remember Kentucky beat them last year, and that kept
Yeah.
Ole Miss out of the college football playoff because they would have made the playoffs if
Yep.
they beat Kentucky last year.
Oh, they would have. Yeah, because Kentucky was second worst team in the SEC last year, and you lost that game at home as about a 3-touchdown favorite. So they deserve to miss out losing that game last year. Kentucky's defense is really good. Their offense is going to be brutal. You remember the old Texas A&M quarterback Zach Calzada? He's
Yeah.
now the starter at
Oh
Kentucky.
wow.
He's in
Oh
his
wow.
sixth year now, seventh year in college.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, where Mark Stoops, I think the air is kind of once he jumped on that jet when he was going to accept the A&M job, it's not gone well here. I really like Ole Miss's new quarterback, Austin Simmons. If Ole Miss can go 10-2, something like that, I would not be shocked if he's like a dark horse. He's sitting there in New York, on Heisman as a Heisman finalist. And I think Ole Miss's defensive line is going to slow down Kentucky's running game, and I just don't think Zach Calzada is going to make enough play with his arm. So the last 4 times these games have been decided by 3 points or less. I'd be surprised if that happens again. I don't think Lane's going to let Kentucky kind of. I don't think they're going to let Kentucky kind of be in this game again. I think they'll take care of business. They'll take care of business this week.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss will take care of business as well. We'll wrap up talking about the Battle of Florida between USF and University of Florida. Now, USF looked good last week. They beat Boise State 34-7. I didn't think they win that game, and they won 34-7. Now, but Florida looked really good as well. TJ Lagway, I think, is one of the most. He's a player we don't talk about as much because he was really good at the end of last year. Started off the season well this year, and I think Florida in this game. I don't think they cover, but I think they win it by 2 scores. I got Florida winning this one 31-20. But can USF keep up the momentum and pull off a big upset in Gainesville?
I don't think so. I got the Gators as well, 35-14. That South Florida game was a lot closer than what the final score indicated because Boise outgained them. Boise was 1 for 4 in the red zone. They had 2 big turnovers. Give South Florida credit; they played really well. But Boise they shot their foot a lot in that game. Bryson Brown, I think the South Florida quarterback, I think he's gonna have to kind of create a lot because I don't think that offensive line's gonna hold up against Florida's defensive line this one. And yeah, Lagway is a really underrated, because the problem this offseason was he was banged up during the spring. He was banged up a lot during preseason camp, so nobody knew how healthy he was, and he was banged up a lot in high school. So yeah, I think the thing with him is can he stay on the field because when he is one of the better quarterbacks out there. I think he plays well. I think the South Florida secondary is not great. They gave up some big plays to Boise. I think TJ Lagway should have a big game, and Florida wins the same by 3 scores.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit closer. I think that USF played well, and I think they covered. But I think you're not high on USF in this one.
Like what I said last week is I think they're dark horse to win the American. Tulane looked really good. I think they could win the American and win the. I think the Group of 5 is going to come from the American this year. Maybe James Madison, but I think more like you're going to the American. But I was with your point, South Florida. They played Alabama tough a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I know.
Detroit, I think they played Miami too tough a couple of years ago as well. So they've played the top tier teams closely. So I wouldn't be surprised. I think Florida a big kind of statement game. I feel like because their schedule gets tough next week, starting with LSU, and then it's like A&M coming up, Texas. They got a loaded schedule coming up, so they better take care of business here and look good.
Yeah, absolutely. So that will wrap up. I'll wrap up today's edition of Sports Talk with R&J. For Justin D'Onofrio, I'm Steve Risser. We will be back next week talking about Week 2 of the NFL season, the big series between the Yankees and Red Sox at Fenway, and Week 3 of the college football season. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group. And here at CMG, we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All Four Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men. And great true crime shows like Sticky Meek, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Bird, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting clovercrestmedia.com.